Lactose is a sugar derived from milk. An enzyme called lactate is secreted in order to split lactose into two different sugars, which can be dissolved by the body. Most people have the ability to secrete lactate and digest lactose from birth, but the ability is often lost after the infantile stage due to the lack of consumption of breast milk. Some hunters and gatherers have mutated genes that kept their lactose tolerance gene switched on and had the ability to digest lactose. Based on the fact that many people began pastoral lives, settling down and keeping herds of animals as sources of food, it was a helpful gene, and since it was dominant, it became a helpful thing for survival as humans, giving them another source of nutrition. These people had to have the ability to digest lactose, as one of their main sources of protein was milk from cows or other mammals. In this way, it became obvious why people in the Middle East and Europe had the ability to digest lactose, but there was a lack of this gene in the populations of Southern Africa, Southern Asia, and Australia. Our group members all have the ability to digest lactose, largely due to our ancestors' origins.
I'm Jackson, and Thomas and my ancestors share a lot of our origins. We are both of European, largely Irish descent. That means that our ancestors would develop lactose tolerance similarly. Due to the agricultural tendencies of our farming ancestors, lactose tolerance was never lost in our ancestors. Our ancestors moved to their origins, and, being Germanic, spread out over northern Europe. They were pushed there by other nomadic cultures vying for land. They were pulled by the lush British and Irish lands there. These factors caused my people to become the pastoralists that are common with lactose tolerance. Our ancestors moved stateside for new opportunity and freedom. They have been here for a very long time, roughly since the time of the explorer Henry Hudson. The origin of Thomas and my people went from Africa, roughly, into this area, and we joined, and it became many Germanic peoples up in here. We moved over here into Britain and Ireland, and then eventually sailed over towards New York and the East Coast.
I'm Thomas, and me and my ancestors were lactose tolerant. Jackson and my ancestors have had the ability to digest lactose for the majority of the same reasons. The Europeans mainly have this ability due to the fact that most of them transitioned to pastoralists and abandoned the previous hunter and gatherer nomadic lifestyle that the majority of humans had had beforehand. Hunting and gathering was often not enough, and the nomadic lifestyle was hard. Being settled down was much easier and allowed cultures to grow much more easily. It was much easier to settle down and keep herds of animals for food and milk rather than hunting and gathering. It was easier to deal with hard climates, and it was much easier to gather resources and trade resources when there was a steady food source. My ancestors came to the United States due to the search for new jobs and new lives.
Hello everyone, I'm Mateen. My ancestors originated from Africa, but after pastoralism was widely used, they migrated to the Middle East, to the ancient lands of Persia, and remained there until 1979, when my mother moved to the United States. In the Middle East, many people are able to digest lactose due to the cultivation process of their ancestors. My ancestors migrated to the Middle East because the lush lands were able to add nourishment to the flock of milk-producing animals it had. Hunter-gathering was very difficult due to the fact that the meat was rarely at the table, and the main diet was vegetables. Pastoralism was a lot easier than hunting and gathering, and due to this it was more widely used. My parents moved to the United States because of the 1979 revolution in Iran. The country was very dangerous, so they migrated to the United States.
Ancestors moved from Africa through this area to Iran, and then by plane they came to California and then moved to Georgia.
Question 1. Did lactase persistence alter the culture of any parts of the world? Well, as people turned to pastoralism, lactase persistence gave one more reason why people could successfully live on herds of mammals as food sources, giving protein and other nutrients in the meat, but also using the milk, which has more useful nutrients than protein. Question 2. Is milk still drunk for cultural purposes, considering that we can receive the same nutrients from milk by another source? No, milk is a popular drink for its commonness, cheapness, and high nutrient value, but has little to no cultural reason as far as drinking goes today. Question number 3. Why has our society come to consider lactose tolerance a norm when only a third of adults are tolerant? The majority of America and Europe is lactose tolerant, and those are two areas where a majority of people who represent the world's population are. There are many lactose-tolerant people in Asia and Africa, but we mostly don't hear about their lactose intolerance because they have not seen much on the news, and most people in the representative areas see the rest of the people drinking milk. Question 4. In what time period would lactose tolerance be most influential? In the classical age, 600 BCE to 600 CE, where many were turning pastoralism for a main source of food and found cows, goats, or other mammals provided both meat and a nutrient-filled drink. Question number 5. What caused the need for people around the world to turn to cows and other animals for food and drinks for consumption? Pastoralism came around during the classical age, and cows and other mammals were often wild or just around, and they were easy to catch and control, providing a food and drink source that was large and docile, allowing pastoralists to maintain their food sources more easily than work on other projects. Question number 6. How has lactase persistence gene affected the world today, from personal to more community-wide standpoint? The lactase persistence gene can change how one is affected by their culture. Many people eat chocolate candy or drink milk daily in the Americas and Europe, and anyone who is not lactose tolerant can feel like an outcast or different when they really identify with the majority of the population. Besides that, milk is a nutrient-filled drink that helps population growth in numbers and literally in size of population, not unlike where parents tell their children to drink their milk if they want to grow big and strong.